Hello, hello. I am just getting organized. And by organized, I mean remembering drinks and things. You can go elsewhere. Welcome in, Tom, Puddleglum. Also, I will let you know that I walked in and then realized I'd forgotten my water, but I read your I can streak on Twitch. I was like, yep, that was good. Well done. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope your first day of the year is going alright. Susie. I was not summoning you. I didn't even say your name before you showed up. Hold on, what'd I do with your treats? We'll have a split second delay here while I deal with the dog. She does have this down to a science of being like, oh, you're about to stream? Like you're switching from the countdown to actually starting. This is when I show up. There you go. Have a treat. Swapping scenes would help, wouldn't it? Is this the one I want? Maybe? Like, what are scenes? I don't know. Hi. Happy New Year. I had a plan. We'll see if I stick to that plan. Yes, hello, Susie. There's a Susie. I just realized the camera is slightly lopsided. There we go. Still lopsided, not quite as bad lopsided. But welcome in. It is January 1st of 2024, which is wild. I've been doing some cleaning and organizing, so we're gonna see how this goes for today's stream and positive or negative implications for hold on, let me move my cups out of the way. Yes, here's a Susie. Susie says hello. She's here for her stream pets because despite the fact that she could have been sitting with me getting pets beforehand, she waits until now. So there you go, Susie sighting. Hey Furwick, welcome in. But yeah, so I've been spending the last couple of days cleaning and organizing my craft space. It kind of got a little out of hand towards the end of last year. It's wild to me because I'm like, once you throw stuff away and organize the things that were just in piles and what have you, it's like wild how much space you can have. Susie has to have her pets and her head massage while she's hanging out here. But I hope everybody had a good New Year's Eve. I took it real easy, hung out in Pirates chat, was cleaning and organizing. I've been going through my fabric. And then I went to bed early. It was like, well, not early, but like went to bed and was just like, I don't need to stay up till midnight. Surprise. The fireworks at midnight woke Susie up, who woke me up. So whether I wanted to be awake at midnight or not, I was. But so today's going to be a little bit of tonight, whatever time zone it is. Furwick, I hope you have coffee, by the way. Is going to be a little different in the sense that we'll do a little bit more of a just chatting. I have my new planner, my old planner. So gonna talk a little bit about just sort of a recap roundup of 2023, hitting some highlights using kind of my planner because I do a sort of year in review for myself, and how that's leading into 2024. So the planner that I have here, and goals and things, and with a little bit of context of what that means um, for stream and things as we think about this year. Um, what you all can expect in January, and some at least initial thoughts for February, and then again ties into my 2024 goals and things. I have a bunch of projects that need some hand stitching to be finished, that I just kept putting off because I hate hand sewing things. It's like finishing touches. It's really minor things. When it's all said and done, it probably won't take that long to do all of them. But on principle alone, I was like, well, you're done except for this one thing, and set them off to the side. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to try and set up for tonight, decided that I could keep the setup that I used, or that I shifted things around for, that we're going to attempt with, say, the sewing machines and stuff, and we will see how well it shows up for hand stitching. Tonight I am drinking a ginger libation, which is described as original Caribbean style ginger beer, made here locally, and by locally I mean in the Northeast, specifically out of Massachusetts. It's really light: ginger, cane sugar, pineapple juice, lemon juice, lime juice, and yeast. I also really appreciate that they actually put "please recycle" on it. For work, hot cocoa this morning, also a good choice. Did I just accidentally press the button? No, we're good. Already. From who? Nice. Okay. I did some binge shopping for things I didn't realize I didn't have for some of my prep stuff, including my planner. So, let me swap scenes. Also, let me know if the audio balance is okay. Again, I was messing with my setup, so hopefully everything will be fine for now. Switching scenes. Ooh, I should have, hold on, let me do one thing with the camera. I think this is the one I want. I don't think it can do much, but I'm gonna try, there we go. Try and zoom it in just a little bit. Unfortunately, I have all kind of webcams and stuff, so they don't really have a lot of zoom as a whole. So I moved everything around to give myself a top-down view. I don't know if this will be good enough for a couple things. One, I'm not sure how the lighting will do, so you'll have to let me know. And then ideally this camera setup will work once I'm sewing, but I have it on a little boom arm, or a little springy arm thing. That's one that I've had for years, that I got from a friend who had it for years. And I'm not sure it's actually quite like long enough or high enough for what I need with like sewing and things, but yeah, it's fine. So I have this really lovely My Neighbor Totoro planner from last year. And we're gonna just kind of chat a little bit about 2023, sort of recap. So you all probably, I'm like, where's the camera versus, there we go. Where's the camera versus the rest of y'all? There's also a lot of thread and other things off to the side. I had a pretty simple list of goals for 23. And I kind of split them out by general goals and then things that fell under content for me. So like reading more than 50 books, sewing 12 projects. I had, also I would say that this wasn't very structured in the sense of I didn't break out by like work versus non-work. So much as I kind of just made a list of things. Like I wanted to get promoted, which I did. I wanted to learn to sail. I like to think of goals from the perspective as like some of them are going to be concrete, like yes, I'm going to do this, and then some of them are like, well, that's something I can work towards. Maybe you do it in parts, maybe you have like a kind of a slew. So like for example, I had a task to take, or I had a goal that I would take an improv class, and then the year went sideways and that didn't happen. So some things will shift from year to year. So I usually have at least a couple of items on here that are sort of from my bucket list. So like learning to sail is an item that's been on my goals, you know, things I'd like to do for several years, because it's a bucket list item for me. And for the first time, I shouldn't say first time, but last year I learned how to sail. So like there's things on my goals for any given year that are things that I just want to keep them top of mind as I work towards, you know, as I go through my life. Because again, talking about things that are bucket lists. So I had stuff like planning a vacation or taking a staycation once a quarter. Not all of these you can tell. Some things are, well, you can't tell because the lighting is, if I move it closer, maybe y'all can see. Some things are crossed out, some things are not. Add things like take part in at least 3 TTRPG one-shots, ideally charity, raise at least $1,000 for a charity, complete a 30-day writing challenge, read every day for a month, try video editing again, complete at least 3 backlog games, blog at least once a month. So this is kind of like a journal bucket. And then as I was thinking about it more, I had some content specific goals. That's this other side. And it was like, okay, try video editing. Hey, I did that because I ended up making a channel trailer. Yay me. I had a couple of things for last year that I wanted to do around content, setting a regular calendar, whether that was blog post, aiming for one a month. I didn't quite get that because yesteryear, because I can word. I tried to say yesterday and last year at the same time and got yesteryear. But went sideways. I still got 9 new posts last year. I wanted to stream 2 to 3 times a week, which I think I mostly stuck to. I wanted to actually plan content per stream. Some was planned, some was not. I had a note about choosing a charity for fundraising, and I had a couple question marks because I wasn't sure at the time what I was going to do at the beginning of the year. Did end up fundraising for Wava, now Salal in March, and then Stack Up in the fall. Making a channel trailer, which tied into video editing. We got that done. I wanted to update some of my branding because if you all might remember at the very beginning of last year, I got luxury orbs and I was like, cool, my emotes all have glasses. My headshot, all of the like nice professional photos I had done a while ago is me wearing glasses. So I was like, yay, LASIK, I need to update these. And I wanted to streamline my branding as a whole. So overlays, colors, what have you. So all of this nice work that you all see on screen done by Artificer Industries, who, I'm trying to find my mouse, it was on the other screen. Hold on. Hold on. See if that works. Yeah! Sierra did my overlays and things and was great. And then I had a kind of like some technical things, like figure out auto shoutouts. Thanks, DC. Let me actually... Oh, I have to wait. I can't give back-to-back shoutouts. That's good to know. That's silly. Why would you not let me do that? But I worked with DC Lasser, booked some time with his production skills to do things like auto shoutouts. And we talked about like on-screen pop-ups and some other stuff I wanted to do. So as a whole, I felt really good about 23. Something else that I did, this is not as well structured, but I actually keep a list of what I complete over the course of the year, and it's usually by buckets. So you can see some were much shorter than others. So I completed a lot of sewing projects, and I completed a lot of books. I did not complete a lot of crochet, and I did not complete a lot of games. And it's actually funny because you can like look at this and see like definite gaps. Like summer was real rough. Crochet just wasn't a priority. Ooh, I forgot about those. Games I spent most of the year playing Zeldas because I forgot. You all might not remember, but at the beginning of the year, well, early in the year, I completed The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening in April, so I spent a lot of time playing Zelda this year. Then I had to add other things. This was not originally on my list, but now it is, which was dice, and I'm actually short one for my list here. So I do this in the sense of like, I don't know how easily y'all can see it. Let me zoom up, but I actually keep track month by month as I have a sort of list of each of the things. So in this case, it was books, sewing, crocheting, games, and I'll actually keep track of what I finish month to month. Just in general, trying to keep a little bit of a record. So this was excessive, but it's nice because then at the end of the year, I can do my year in review, and I sort of bucket it personally by the things I was tracking against. So like, hey, I was tracking, I wanted to read 50 books. I read more than 50 books. My Kindle tracked 56, and then I had a variety, another probably like 10 or so that were physical. So I wrote a little bit about, you know, just my thoughts on it more than anything else. Hey, Antiquated, welcome in. Happy New Year. I hope you're doing well. I'm just kind of going through like a general recap of 23 for myself before we go into talking about my 24 planner and goals. But yeah, so I did my own little year in review. I did things, I kind of wrote about books, sewing, crochet, games. I know you can't see this exceptionally well. And then I added in dice because that's the late ad. I actually take the time, so this is for me, and I don't know how much any of you all who do regularly use planners or journals or what have you, but I actually sit down and make a list of what I did for the year. And it's sort of just that, like, to feel accomplished. Like, actually, sometimes it's really hard at the end of the year, especially a really rough year. Hey, Cypher, welcome in. Hopefully captions are readable. If you're on your way home, they might not be, but hi. But especially at the end of the year, and this is across multiple things. It's not just your personal life, but I do a same record keeping at work and things of that nature, is years are long, and depending on how hard the year was for you and what happened throughout the year, it can be really easy to forget stuff that happened earlier in the year, to forget some of those wins you have. So that's kind of part of why I keep this record of like projects I complete, books I've read, games I've finished, because it lets me look back and be like, oh yeah, I freaking forgot that was, like, I completed Subnautica Below Zero in February. I forgot that 2023 is when I played that, because the year was so long. And so I made like this long list of here's like this whole list here are things I accomplished in 2023 in no particular order. I streamed 83 times, plus a couple of failed streams where like technology wasn't cooperating, so I didn't count those. I finally made myself a channel trailer. I got LASIK. I have luxury orbs now, y'all. So I did have a semi-regular stream schedule, which was one of the things I wanted. I took part in 5 tabletop RPG one-shots, so 2 more than I aimed for, and several of them, 3 of them were for charity. I learned to sail, so that's one thing off my bucket list. I did get promoted and not laid off, very important. Raised over $2,000 from charity, or for charity, in my fundraisers. I wrote over 10k words in NaNoWriMo. Completed 4 games, which doesn't sound like a lot, but Zelda, Ocarina, gosh, I can't even, I was thinking, making a joke about Ocarina of Time to a friend this earlier today, and it's on top of mind, but Tears of the Kingdom, I spent 110 hours, more than 110 hours playing that game. Updated my stream, we got new overlays, I wrote 9 blog posts, I went to 2 cons and 1 award show. I took part in 4 panels or live plays at cons. I bought fabric in New York City. That was very exciting for me. I went to tea 6 times with my friends. I read over 50 books. Again, reading 50 books was one of my goals for the year, for 23. I normally would visit my family during winter for Christmas. I did not do that this year or this past year because I actually went and saw them during the summer. I sewed over 25 projects, including 5 quilts. I'm a fool. I made so many granny squares and completed a couple crochet projects. And I say this because as I was cleaning and organizing, I actually sat down and counted all of the granny squares. I made 104 in like during meetings and things like that towards the end of last year. I picked up a new hobby, dice making. Thanks for that, Cypher. I got the materials to try embroidery, and I picked up knitting needles. I voted, very important, especially for those of us here in the U.S. as we go into an election year. I treated myself to nice things. That was a win. I'm calling that an accomplishment. I kept regular appointments with my therapist. I took 4 sewing classes or workshops. And so, like, for me, writing this list was like, look at all the things I accomplished and all the things that made me happy. All the things that meant something to me over the course of the year. So that's really what I like doing about these recaps. And like, I'm honest about it, where it's like, hey, throughout my kind of year in review, I was like, yo, my summer went sideways last year. Like, a lot of things kept going sideways. And so a lot of things I thought I was going to get done, I didn't. I wanted to complete so many more games than I did. What have you. But like, at the end of it, I'm proud for what I accomplished. I'm proud of what I overcame and all the things that brought me joy in the year. And we made it through. It's 2024 now, so hopefully this will be better. So that was the, short recap. So swapping over to 2024, I have picked up the, I don't know how easy it is to see the art. There you go. The Hobonichi Techo. I believe this is the Han. I appreciate you, Cypher. Which is the hard cover version, and it has actually really quite like this one. It has months, it has weeks, and it has individual days, which might seem like super repetitive, everyone, but I actually really enjoy being able to break things out. So I've tried a lot of different planners over the course of the years, and like each year it's just like, okay, what do I want to do? Like, what do I want? How do I think I want to tackle this year? So talking about 2024, like, what did I put here? Okay, that's week, that's month. Let's go to my couple of pages with my goals for the year. So when we talk about 2024, first off, please see my Magic Carpe Diem sticker. I hope you all love them as much as I do. So for 2024, before anything else, I saw actually a quote of, I believe, a user comment on a washi tape account that was, I was like, that's what I want. That is my theme for 2024. And it is, anything that brings you joy is never a waste of time. And that's the energy I want to bring into this year, because it's real easy for me personally to look at a lot of things that I've done or like decisions I've made and go, well, that wasn't productive. Like, I sat on my couch and read, fan fiction all day. That wasn't a productive day. And it's like, well, did I enjoy it? Yes. Did I read good stories? Yes. Then it doesn't matter whether I sewed something, whether I completed a project, whether I ran through a million chores, because it brought me joy. So that's, brainworms are a thing, but that's the energy I want to have for 2024. Anything that brings you joy is never a waste of time. And so this year, I broke out my goals into buckets. I have life and leisure, which is kind of my catch-all bucket. I have a crafts set of goals. I have goals around being a creator. And I'm using that as a bucket term because it's stuff like related to streaming and the content I make and what have you. And I sort of have an other. Uh, and I think, as I mentioned earlier, the main theme for me, beyond my quote, but as I was thinking about what I wanted to do for 2024, it's that this is gonna sound bad. I want to use stuff I already have, y'all. So, for example, I've been hoarding this Magic Carpe Diem sticker for like 3 years because I was like, it's so good, I never want to use it. It's that meme about how you have thousands of consumables because you might need them later, and so therefore you're never going to use them. I'm trying to resist that. So one of the things I'm intentionally doing is using my stickers, and I'm going to carry that through to a lot of other stuff. So when I look at, we'll start with like the Life and Leisure. I'm like, I want to finish at least 10 games that I already own. Emphasis on already own. Similarly, I want to read 25 books that I already own. I have a ton of books, y'all, which is a separate conversation where I keep trying to read these really interesting, usually scientifically heavy books. So like I'm reading one about physics right now, and they're just slow going because they are like a mental lift to process the science and the terminology and things in a way that like a romance novel isn't. And I think that really slowed me down last year. So part of what I'm going to do is trying to work my way through a bunch of the books that I have sitting around, and I'll do a little bit better about like bringing in the like nonsense, the mysteries and the romance novels and the science fictions and the fantasies with the occasional like learning or scientific and academic books in between to ease that sort of mental load. I pulled something from my bucket list because we did learn to sail last year, so this year I want to go whitewater rafting. I still continue to have I have 2 goals. So two vacation related goals. One is, once again, I want to try to take a vacation or intentional time off, not just a day, every quarter, because I'm really bad at not doing that. And then I have to basically use all of my time at the end of the year, and it's nice, but it's also just reflective of the fact that I wasn't taking meaningful time off throughout the year. And at my job right now, time off does not carry over to the next year, so it's a use it or lose it. And I use all of my vacation, y'all. And then the other thing is, partially because of COVID, I've been setting dollars aside into a vacation fund the past few years that I have not used yet. So I need to plan something that uses my vacation fund if that's what it's for. I want to do another write every day for a month, whether that's NaNoWriMo or a different month. Don't know yet. I've been very, very lightly running on and off, like life has just been life. So I want to get back into that. So running every day for a month and then doing a 5K. I still want to try and take an improv class because I didn't get to that last year. And then I have a note. I'm actually reminding myself, purge stuff, especially clothes, at least one time a month. It doesn't have to be like purge, like go through the entire apartment. It could just be like, oh, let me just take a break with these things. So those are like my general life and leisure bucket goals for the year, or bucket of goals for the year. Crafts. Once again, complete projects with materials I already own. I need to open up some more space with all the stuff I have. So I broke that down to saying I want to complete 10 sewing projects, 5 crochet projects, and then 5 resin projects. Those might not seem like a lot, but I want to have balance this year. I kind of would like fall into one thing and be like, all I'm doing is sewing for weeks on end, or all I'm doing is making a quilt, or all I'm doing is playing this one game. And that's fine, but I'd like to have a little bit more balance. So I'm not setting very high goals for the number of projects so much as balancing all the hobbies and things I'm putting my time into. So it seems like a little bit less of projects because I also want to make sure I'm having time to game and hang out with friends and what have you. I do have a goal of sewing a quilt for myself though in 2024. No timetable besides in the year, but I would like to sew a quilt for myself. I do want to try out embroidery and knitting, so I bought an intro to embroidering kit. Cypher of Tier was kind enough to hand off some embroidery things to myself, and I have a bunch of yarn, but I'd never knitted before, so I bought some knitting needles, and I just couldn't get to either of those last year because of everything else. So I don't know if I will pick them up as full long-term crafts, but I at least want to give them a try. I have the materials, so why not? And then I also want to go check out the local makerspace. So the library system here in my state, one of the larger size libraries that's about 15 minutes from me, actually has a dedicated makerspace with larger equipment, laser cutters, things like that, and they do a variety of classes and also just open time on those machines. So I'd like to go check that out and get a look at some of the bigger pieces of equipment like laser cutters and what have you that I'm unlikely to ever purchase, but that I might find an interesting use for. So that's my crafty projects. For creator stuff, streaming, what have you, I want to blog at least once a month again. I want to run at least one charity fundraiser, so like, hey, fingers crossed. I'd like to take part in at least 3 TTRPG games again, whether those are one-shots. Maybe I'll work up to being in like a limited run series, who knows. I feel like TTRPGs are one of those ones where it's oftentimes a challenge to say, am I actually decent enough at this to be worth people taking part? Like, is it entertaining? Do I bring something to a streamed game? What have you? I'd like to try video editing again. I feel like this is again, since I also had that for last year, but this time specifically around crafts and YouTube. So try that out. And then I just want to keep improving on my branding. So updating my emotes, getting new headshots, what have you. And finally, my other bucket, I'd like to complete a course or a program that's career oriented. So I have a couple of like digital classes that are like 5 hours through, I think, Udemy for, learning Python, just carving out the time to do those. More specifically, I would like to revisit, I think I've talked about it on stream before, but I'd like to revisit going through my values exercise, just to see if I'm at the same place now that I was a couple years ago, and then what I want next in my career. So a couple of things here. I got promoted last year, yay. But it was a very volatile year for the industry, and at my job, we had multiple rounds of layoffs throughout the year, including a round of layoffs in December. I don't know that I talked about this on stream. I was not impacted, but my team was. We did lose a couple of people, and sort of the takeaway initially, this was like right before I went out for break, or went out on my time off, but the takeaway was we're going to be doing things differently, and my role as I know it is going to evolve. And so I think it was, as I was sitting down, it was very hard to really articulate career-related goals for the year because so much is in flux. Like, I don't even know what my role is going to look like in 2 months' time. Now, I have the ability to impact it, but I don't really know. So I think more valuable to me is what are things I can continue to learn and skills I can evolve that are career-related, career-oriented, but not necessarily directly like I'm going to learn X for my current job. And then taking the time, because I had been working for several years to get promoted. Okay, now I've been promoted, what next? And that's a bigger question about like what I want out of my career. Where do I stand now versus where I was a couple years ago, just as a professional, what have you. So, at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna have so many, career-related goals for the year. And then I was like, actually, let's take a step back. Let's be honest with ourselves. I also, this is one of the shorter sections, but I have a note to like make time to visit with and see my friends, which I've been doing pretty good about, but I want to still continue to do better. I've fallen off a little bit of my pen paling with people, so I want to get back into that. And I have, I don't know if any of you all deal with this that often, but that like, oh, I'm definitely out of something, and you go buy it and then you had it all along. That was me with stamps. I buy forever stamps. Context here. I pen pal with several friends and family members, and it's like, because it's nice to get something in the mail that's not just a bill or an ad. And so, like, sometimes they send greeting cards, and they're silly ones, like, not just for birthdays, but it might be like a thank you card or hey, I'm thinking of you card. I have a million, because one of the things I pick up at anytime I travel is postcards. I have so many postcards, so I'm going to start actually sending them out. Like, I've accumulated so many over like the past 5-8 years. So anyways, I was like, oh my God, I was trying to send out a couple postcards. This was like, I don't know, November. I was like, I absolutely cannot find my stamps. I must be out of stamps because I can't find them anywhere. They're in none of the places I typically store them. I shuffled through a whole bunch of stuff and could not find them. So I'm like, clearly I'm out of stamps that I just forgot. The next time I go into the post office to mail something, I will get more stamps. So I buy more stamps. And then literally 2 days later, I found like 15 stamps that I still had. And I'm like, well, now I need to definitely get back into like being a pen pal and stuff like that, because now I have a bunch of stamps. Bright side, they're forever stamps, which I insist on always purchasing so that they'll always work for me. But the flip side of that is I have so many. Oh, good, it's not just me. Also, hi, Blackjack. But yeah, so I just want to make a more deliberate effort this year for visiting, seeing friends, and not just keeping friends in my thoughts, but finding and following through on ways to let them know I'm thinking of them. And being a pen pal and sending mail and stuff sounds maybe silly, but I've found that to be, especially now when like either a bunch of stuff is digital or mostly what you get are bills and like advertisements and stuff, getting a card from a friend or getting, a postcard or things like that, it's so nice. I did not get the D&D stamps because I have so many I think I bought the stamps right before the D&D stamps became available. So I have a bunch of flowers. I think actually both of mine. One is flowers and one is watercolors, like watercolor art. Looks at the 10 rolls of tape. Nope, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So I don't have a lot of career-focused goals. And I try to give myself, generally speaking, a little bit of space here because I figure that there'll probably be things that get added in over the course of the year, but this is a good starting point. And then this last one, which again ties back into my theme of the year being anything that brings you joy is never a waste of time, is to spend less time engaging with things that don't bring me joy. And that's a nice way of saying that I have, especially probably over the last 6 months, fallen into behaviors of things that I feel I need to do or feel is expected of me. That one, that's not the case in either way. I don't need to do it and it's not expected of me, but that I felt obligated to. And it made it draining and not enjoyable. And then I lost time that I could have been putting towards things that were joyful to me. So I'll kind of give an example. And I also caveat, this is all on me. This is not on anybody in chat or what have you, is that I felt like I had to be in everybody's chat all the time when they were live. And then I felt like if I was in a chat, whether I was lurking or not, I had to be doing clips. And I was trying to kind of work away from that over the last couple of months, where it's like, if I should have a stream up, cool. If I should feel like I want to say something or I want to make a clip, cool. But I think several of you might have seen that, like, for some of you who've been streaming, I've been lurking. Like, I absolutely want to support the community and my network and my friends, and I want you to have the numbers, but like, when I was not in the headspace to be present, it was more draining to me to try to be, when I could have been doing something that would be more enjoyable, even if that meant just putting the stream up and, on my phone off to the side and then doing whatever I wanted to do, like projects or what have you. And I just want to be better at that. And it's nobody at fault besides myself. But But like that's just one example of there's just been multiple things where I'm like, oh, I have to do this because I feel like I should. Or that's what people expect of me. It's like, okay, no, like do that when I feel like it, but not the rest of the time. Um, so that's kind of my last ties into all the other things. So I'd say like the big things for this year is focusing on things that bring me joy, trying to use materials for things I already own. So I want to give you all a little bit of context. I have behind me, we're going to get to it at some point, 4 sewing projects that I just need to do some hand stitching to finish them off that I've just been putting off doing for months in some cases. I have 3 work in progress crochet that's not the granny squares crochet projects that are like around my apartment. Many of which have been in the works for months. Like one I think I was working on through like on and off all of last year. And it's not very far because I've just like I ended up destroying it. I was crocheting earlier in the year. It might have been April, a top. And I found it in the pile of a basket with where I'd been thrown all the granny squares. All the granny squares had been thrown on top. And I pulled it out, and y'all, this is almost essentially done. It's 2 panels for the front and back, and then 2 additional panels that'll be the sleeves. All I have to do is actually attach them to each other. It's probably something if I sat down and focused on, I could get done in an hour. And I'm pretty sure I did that back in April, May. And it's been sitting unfinished in a basket covered by granny squares. And so it's a little bit of let me complete the projects that are nearly done or that I have in progress. And then I have a lot of stuff here. I have a lot of yarn. I have a lot of fabric. And it's not that I'm not going to do new projects. Transparently, I've signed up for a couple classes, sewing classes, which when I get to them, if I don't have fabric that works, I'll go buy new fabric. But I wanted to clear out some space. So like I'm looking right now, I organized all of the projects that I had pulled out and set aside specifically for the ones I thought I was going to get to last year that I was going to cut. So the bomber jackets I've been promising for forever, a dress, a set of overalls, a couple of other things. And I sat down and actually looked at everything I had and said, what projects are these? And I made a list of them, and there's 11. That's kind of at the top of the list. I can bust one of these out and get started right now. There's 1, 2 others that I would like to get to but are not part of that, and then a few extra that are sitting around. There's 3 quilts, that I need to finish at some point. And then I actually started going through all of my fabric. I made a list. You can see part of the list here. I basically wrote very high level what the fabric was. I wrote how much of it I had, and then if there was a project I designated that fabric for. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Almost half. There's 34 fabrics listed here, and I know that I'm missing at least 2 that were from, actually more than 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm missing 5 fabrics, which are fabrics that I got in New York that are not included here. And 14 of these fabrics of the list that's already available, so about a third, are fabrics with no project allocated to it. So this is important for 2 things. One is I know what the fabrics are that I have, and so when I go to take a class and they say, here's what fabric you need, I can check here first. Do I have a fabric that would work? And do I have enough of it? So I don't necessarily have to buy new fabrics. And then second, I have an idea of like, and here's the thing, is outside of saying that I want to complete 10 total sewing projects in a year, I'm not setting too ambitious a goal for these. It's more of like, what can I finish? What can I do? And like some of them are going to be short and simple. Like I have some stuff I have fabric that's already cut. I have a couple basic projects that, like, I'm making bucket hats for my parents. I bought the fabric. If I actually sit down and do it, I can get them done in an afternoon. I mean, Blackjack, you're right. Like, it is the definition of being a crafter, is having a bunch of half-finished projects. So it's not just a backlog of projects you want to do, it's a backlog of half-finished projects. And I have a bunch of yarn that I'm also working my way through. Like, those granny squares will one day become something, who knows what. I have 104 to start with. But yeah, so I think there was definitely a little bit of, hey, I kept buying stuff thinking I would be clearing it out faster than I was, and that wasn't the case. So in addition to focusing on things that bring me joy, for the year I'm definitely going to be trying to clear out some space, both from the yarn and the fabric. And, because y'all know I'm an organization nerd, I took a roll through my local Dollar Tree because I was looking for some very specific things. And I saw this index card box, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because if y'all don't know, when I buy a fabric, I take an index card and I write the fabric info on it, if I bought it at Joann's or somewhere that had care info. So if I know it, I'll include what brand, what the fabric is, what the fiber content is, what the care instructions are, what the width of the fabric is, how much I bought. So like, oh, it's 2 yards. And then typically, if it is allocated to a project, or I like know what I want to make with it, I'll write down the pattern number. And so I was thinking, because right now all of my scrap from leftover projects is literally thrown in a bin with the index cards. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to pull those out, match them up with the fabric, snip a little sample of it, put it in, and then store them in here. And so then when I'm like, oh, I'm going to make X, I need Y fabric, rather than trying to dig through and figure out what all is in my bin, I can just go into my little index card. Not Rolodex, but my pretend Rolodex. Look for the fabric and say, will this do for what I need? Now to start with, I'm going to use this for my scrap fabrics, but I would like to do the same with all of my other fabrics that you all can't see that are over there. Hey, Dasbiff! Yes, I was thinking about it, where people usually like, new year, new me, and I'm like, no, new year, same like Goblin mode me. Nothing's really changed. But yeah, so that's a lot of... And then the one thing I like about these planners, also hashtag not sponsored. Be really clear when I talk about any products here. I am not sponsored by anyone. So this is just me talking about products. So like the Hobonichi planner, I had a Hobonichi a couple of years ago and I really liked it. So I looked and was like, okay, I want a little bit more. That was a daily planner. I wanted the month and the week. And then I wanted the hardback and the slightly larger size. So hashtag not sponsored, but I like that they have little kind of open page at the beginning of each month. So I'll like go in and be like, hey, you know, one of the things, I should not get overwhelmed and overcommitted, hopefully, but setting a list of here's the things I want to accomplish in January. And then I'll have all of the individual days. I typically go through and try to, in this case, I filled in everything I already had through March, and then I go in and put people's birthdays that I know in and things of that nature. So I have birthdays I know through the full year, and then I have a variety of stuff happening between now and March that I went ahead and put in. The one thing I haven't gotten to yet is at the back there's some additional kind of graph paper and things, so I'll make pages and prep for tracking the stuff I complete for the year. So I like that sounds clever as well as that sounds clever. I am, as we've talked about with with me having too many stamps right now because I have many, many stamps. I have the bad habit to say, oh, I need this thing and I can't find it, so therefore I'll just go buy more. And I don't think, using the fabric as an example, like, what do we say? I'm missing 5 fabrics, not this. I have a lot of notebooks. I basically have 40 different fabrics for projects. 40 different fabrics, not counting the 11 projects I told you were allocated. Actually, 11, 12, 13. So there's 13 projects sitting over here on another shelf y'all can't see. 13 projects, which are these are the ones I want to start working my way through sewing. And then there's almost 40 fabrics here, of which a third are fabrics that do not have a project associated. The other reason, too, that I write it is in some of these cases, I was like, oh, here's a fabric that I don't know what to do with. And so I have fabrics tagged for 3 of the same project. I'm probably not going to make 3 of that. Not because the fabric isn't nice, but I don't know that I would make 3. So keeping a list and ideally having my little, not Rolodex index card planner thing, means that every time I'm like, oh, I want to do this, whether it's a class or something else, or I see a cool pattern, I can go do I have a fabric that will do this? And I have some really cool fabrics, y'all. I have fabric that's a woven knit with metallic thread through it that looks like it could be chainmail. It's almost like a mesh, and it's really cool looking. And for some reason, I bought 4 yards of it. I don't know what I'm going to use it for. I don't know when I bought it, but I have 4 yards. I have 4 different knits that I think I plan to make leggings out of. But why did I buy 4? I bought them at different times, so I would see it and probably it would be on sale, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. I can make leggings out of that whenever I finally make leggings. I've never made leggings yet, and I would go buy it, and I was going through. It was like, I even have 2 of the exact same print that looks like mermaid scales, in 2 different colors that I did not realize I had until I was going through all this fabric. So essentially, I need to make some space. I live in an apartment. This room multi-purposes for multiple things: streaming, gaming, crafting, which includes sewing and crochet and sometimes dice and what have you. I don't have a ton of space, so I need to make the most of my space, which means I need to actually clear out some of my projects. So this year, we are completing projects with materials we already own, for the most part. In some cases, all I have is the fabric. I don't have the buttons and the zippers and all of the notions. But yes. Hey, Cypher, welcome in. I assume this means you are home. And this is now not killing your battery. Though, having said all of that, I did break down and was like, I want a lot of washi tape and other things because I haven't been able... I didn't realize how much I had used up previously. And so I don't have a ton to get creative with my pages right now. I mostly have stickers, and markers and things. So yeah, I might have ordered a whole bunch of washi tape because I completely and utterly lack self-control. Well, welcome back, Cypher. My worst crime against crafting is that I want to make a Rana cloak. I have the blanket, and all I need to do is cut a slit of one side. I still haven't taken it out of the Amazon packaging. It's bad, right? It's so bad. So yeah. If you want to bring it to Aresia, which actually this is a good. So now that I've told you all about my plans and everything, let me talk a little bit about what's coming up. And the main thing is, hey, I'm going to be at Aresia in 2 weeks. And I actually remembered to make a command. And this actually has my list. So from January 12th, 15th in Boston, I'm taking part in a couple panels and a live show. I'm doing 6 things between, 6 is a lot, between Friday and Monday. I do not know what, if anything, is being streamed versus recorded, so I do apologize, but I will be there doing all of these things. Welcome in, Leaf. I hope you're doing well. Leaf, you will have to go back to very beginning of stream. There was a Susie sighting. I did show her off because, of course, the moment I wanted to start streaming, she decided she had to have pets. If you have the space to bring the ukulele, yes. If not, don't worry about it, because I was thinking about it. I'm playing a bard in our, I forget. Live and in, what's the title of it? Chaos Live and in Color. Yeah, first Susie sighting of the year. She was like, we're starting this year off right, where you literally hit the go live, and the moment you're ready to sit down and get started, I'm gonna show up and demand pets. I need to get my character into D&D Beyond. I promise that I will. But yeah, so I'm gonna be on a variety of panels talking about self-care at conventions, what's in a name, artisan, craft person, maker, or crafter, what we learned from gaming. I have a very sad story for that I hope our moderator will let me tell. Talking about making makers make, so that transition from watching other people make or thinking about making to actually doing it. We'll have the live play of Chaos Live and in Color, which is Cypher, DMing myself, painting Pirate, and Eugenio in a game basically of the Baldur's Gate 3 multiplayer games we've done. Sessions, and then finally wrapping up with making space for making. So talking about how do you make space for your crafts in limited spaces, which you all have seen the comedy that's been me doing this. So I will be Darija, and if I figure out, if I double check if Melissa lets us know if anything's recorded. You feel number 4 under other, that is your listen. So I was talking about it earlier. So first, I'm trying to see what's on screen and how well you all can read it. Also, I'm really glad because I wasn't sure how. Brian, you were not the only one to make that joke tonight. Welcome in. Or to make a joke like that, I should say. In that theme of, is this allowed? Isn't this against TOS? That was Tom. Tom made that. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I'm glad actually, because I wasn't sure how readable this would be for y'all. I moved everything. I moved my light. Obviously, I have a top-down camera here right now. It's actually the least good of my 3 cameras, but it was the easiest for me to move. So yeah, I to broadly speak, themes for 2024 for me. This here at the top again, props. I think this was a comment used as a quote by a washi tape company that I follow on Instagram. Anything that brings you joy is never a waste of time. So I want to carry that with me this year. A lot of goals around using materials I already have for crafting things. Playing or finishing 10 games that I already own. I own a lot. I should finish them. Finishing 25 books that I already own. I own a lot. I should finish some of them. Completing projects, sewing and crochet being the biggest ones, with materials I already own. You all have just gotten my very, very long description of the fact that I have 13 projects set aside, in the sense of these are the ones I actually hope to start doing once I wrap up the quilts and a couple of other things. And I have nearly 40 fabrics separate from that, of which a third don't even have projects for them yet to use. I need to open up some, you all, I don't think you all can see it unless I let me roll the other way and see if that works. I'm gonna run into my sewing machine. Turn. You can't see them, but there's some drawers back here. Those drawers are all filled with yarn. There's 6 of them. They're like the little stackable plastic things. All filled with yarn. All of them. It's not even all my yarn, it's just the yarn that's put away. I have a bunch of yarn sitting around that's the yarn I've been working on projects with. So basically, 2024, we're going to clear out some of our materials, project materials. Okay, these projects are on the list, so I updated the list is what happened, Leaf. I pulled out the old list, and I kind of reordered, made the list of here's what's still outstanding, here's some additional ones that I had set aside, what have you. So the bomber jackets, a couple of the dresses, the overalls. Yeah, no, it's the washi tape company is very wise. I just like watching their videos because it's very inspiring and also not my skill at all. Like, you do so many, like, you make art with tape and stickers, and, like, I cannot. Or I have not, I should say. But yes, I have a ton of yarn. So like, 2024 is really about clearing out my stashes into something, not clearing out, but using them and bringing them down to a slightly more manageable amount. Because right now, could I buy more stuff? I was watching a video about somebody who's talking fabric organization and their setup, and they were it's funny because their commentary was, if you don't have enough space for fabric, the answer is not buy more storage, it's use the fabric you have. And I felt attacked and called out. And was like, okay, cool, that's the energy I'm taking into 2024. So a lot of using and completing stuff that I already have is what I'm trying to do in 2024. So games. Now, to be fair, completing 10 games, I might pick a bunch of indies that are 5 hours or less. I have a variety of them. So I might be able to check off that 10 real quick with like, oh, this took an hour, we're good. But yes, so as we look, so I've derailed myself a little bit, but I wanted to talk a bit about, the goals and stuff, and I don't think that there's too much too directly tied to the channel because I want it to be flexible, and I also, I don't necessarily have numbers growth per se. Like, if I break 500 followers this year, well done me. I will tell you all, I'm willing to admit this, I ended up not having it on my final list of goals for the year, but at one point I did have a goal that was do not make more than $600 on Twitch. Well, Tanya, earlier I was talking about, like, if we look at last year, 2023, I just had one bucket list of goals, and then, like, partway through writing those goals, I was like, oh, some of these are very content focused. Why don't I make a content list? And then one thing that's not in the new planner yet is having my list of completed things. Completed sewing, completed crochet, completed books, completed games here. I added in dice because that was the late ad. And then I do a kind of recap year in review for myself where I kind of am just like, how did I feel about this year? And like the different goals and things I'd set for myself. And then I went through this a lot earlier, but not sure how much you all got it. So sorry for those of you that have been here the whole time and you're getting a rehash. But I actually sit down and write down my accomplishments for the year because it brings me joy to look at what I did, especially because at the end of the year, sometimes it's hard to remember what you did at the beginning of the year. So like I streamed 83 times last year, not including the couple of failed streams where technology didn't cooperate, or I had to cut early because of it. Like those things, it's looking back and be like, actually, I did a lot. Like I went and I read, and I went and like took count where I'm like, this is how many times I streamed. I read over 50 books. I sewed over 25 projects. I voted. I picked up a new hobby. I treated myself to nice things. I bought fabric in New York City. I went to tea 6 times with my friends. Like, I think it's really easy sometimes with like goal setting to end up a little focused on all the things you didn't get done. And like there's things I carried forward into this year, like hey, I still want to take an improv class, you know, hey, I still want to do another 5K, which I just ended up not happening last year, what have you. But rather than saying, hey, I didn't do it, oh no, boo-hoo, it's like, cool, I'll take it with me into next year. Or maybe you reevaluate and say, you know what, I didn't get it done because I didn't actually want to do it, so take it off the list. But I kind of wanted my sort of end of year to be a celebration of all the things I did do and all the joy I had. Sitting and going, yeah, those 6 times I went to tea with my friends was great. Those 83 streams, well done me. Like, I was relatively consistent. So it got a little more structured this year. A little more. But yeah, so as we look at January, a couple things to note. We will, as of right now, current plan is that I will be doing Monday, Thursday streams through the month of January. Caveat. I've been summoned for jury duty next week. I have to go in on Monday. While I do not believe that would overlap in such a way that it would impact stream times, it could impact just my energy levels. So obviously, I just want to be transparent that schedule next week might end up a little wonky. As we look at the week after, as noted, I'm doing a Regia from the 12th to the 15th. My last panel's in the morning on the 15th, but because friends will be in town, what have you, it's possible that I might end up hanging out all day or most of the day in Boston and choosing to, and maybe not having the energy to stream that night. So I'd say keep an eye out on socials and what have you, that, you know, the month is kind of flexible. I can say for sure that going into February, we are going to have a modified schedule. It's probably going to be Monday, Wednesday, because I am taking a Thursday evening class for most of February. So a bit like last year, I'll try to be transparent as we're coming up on a new month, what the schedule is tentatively looking like. I don't have too much slated for February right now. So as a result, that means things could still change, but yeah, way to be a good citizen. I've managed to avoid it until now. But there's some placeholder, some things that are TBD that I need to confirm that are not yet final. So there might be some additional announcements or things later in the month, but at least for now, you all can expect a mostly regular schedule outside of around the con. So this is my long instance of talking at you all about recapping 23, looking at my planner for 24 and the goals that I have. Yay! Hashtag not sponsored. Chatted a bit about what you all can expect in January. I think for this year, I am likely, or for this month, I'm likely to be, I'd like to have a balance between crafty things and games. So it might be like I decide that night. I do have a couple of projects to get completed. Hey, Tuck, I've been showing off and talking about how lovely my planner for last year was, but now we've moved on to this year. Because it's 2024, be afraid. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, one of my goals this year is to be a little more balanced across my various crafts and hobbies and things I put my time into. So I want to have, like, rather than having long stretches of just sewing or just game, I'd like to balance. Oh no! They started selling them a week after. The timing just apparently didn't work out. I think last time I saw you, it was in January, or last year. So it was like later, and you happened to be willing to bring one along. Or no, it was a gift. I shouldn't say you timed it perfectly that I had failed to get a planner by the time I saw you. And it worked out perfectly. So of course, but it's fine. We'll keep it in mind maybe for 25. How long are you there again? And I'm gonna use my stickers, y'all. It was earlier in November, was it? Clearly I have no concept of time. I'm like, what is time? But yeah, so balancing all of my things, so which is my long way of saying you all probably see sewing. Oh, also, let me tell you all, side story for a second. Nope, wrong. This one. Disregard that. I went to the wrong scene. Side story for you all. So we talked about sanding dice several times now, and that I'm struggling real hard with all of the dice that I have in sanding it. And we were talking about the pottery wheel. And I went over to a friend's place. I think it was on Christmas. We did dinner together. And I was chatting with them about it. And they're like, we're not telling you no to the pottery wheel, but that takes up a lot of space considering you live in an apartment. Have you considered a Dremel? I was like, well, no. So of course I start looking it up and going like, different work, but still easier than hand sanding, what have you. My father used to do a lot of like handy stuff and had a bunch of tools and what have you. It's like a little hand thing, which is not helpful. Hold on. A Dremel. If my internet will cooperate. They're like these little teeny tiny hand tools that are very multi-purpose, is essentially what they are. I say hand tools. So I called, first I texted my dad and was like, have you used a Dremel? I also want you to know that, hilariously, this is, yeah, I'm the worst. I'm the worst enabler. Let's just own this. I'm not saying I wasn't looking at the Bandai store, because they do a teapot set that's Totoro themed, and I was like, ooh, maybe I'll buy myself a teapot. But yes, so I tend to like text my family random questions out of the blue. So there was no hi, there was no hello. It was text to my dad, basically, have you used a Dremel? And I'm sure the answer was yes, but I wasn't, you know, I wanted to confirm. And he's like, yes, for many years. I'm like, cool, cool, cool. Can I ask you some questions? He's like, okay. And they've heard my long misadventure about the dice and the sanding of the dice and what have you. So, I feel like the camera's slightly lopsided, but maybe it's just me. So he's like, yeah, give me a call. So, okay, I call him. He's like, yeah, you know, I have a Dremel. I've used them for many years. They're very multi-purpose. I was like, cool, cool, cool. Friend mentioned maybe that'll be, you know, more space efficient for me than getting a pottery wheel. And then, in addition to being space efficient, it has a wider array of applications, so I could use it for other stuff. And he's like, yeah. So we're chatting about it, and I was like, there's different ones. I'm trying to figure out what the differences are so I can decide what I need to buy. And he's like, you want mine? It's like, I have one. I don't do as much handiwork stuff. It has a million accessories. I'll ship it to you. So I should get it later this week. And not just like basic accessories. It has like a bunch of the nicer ones, apparently. And I'm like, this is wild. Like, I'll pay for it and how much it costs to ship the damn thing, but it's still cheaper than buying one brand new and then buying all the accessories that goes with it. So net, I'm getting this in, and hopefully I'll be able to use it to more speedily sand and polish my dice. I've made zero progress on the like 7 sets that are sitting around. You have a couple of nice. I'm mostly interested to start with in sanding and polishing, but I certainly think that, to your point, like the geode style dice are really cool. Like there's a lot of ways that can evolve, and then it just becomes an additional tool that I can use around the apartment and stuff like that, if for a wider array of uses than just that. Uh, but it was this very comedic. I was doing all this planning. I hadn't quite committed, but I was pretty sure I was going to buy a pottery wheel. And then it was just like completely blindsided by my friend being like, what about a Dremel? And then the hilarity of me being like, I guess there's a variety, but my local stores don't have a ton of different ones. What should I buy? What works best for what I need? And then calling your family member to be like, let me just like pick your brain so I can decide what to purchase. And they're like, yeah, just take it. He's like, you're doing us a favor because you're clearing it out of our shed. And I was like, perfect. Win. So yeah. Also, I feel no regret about sending Cypher to the official Ghibli store. I don't remember what's the correct phrasing or pronunciation, but I bought a bunch of washi tape and a bunch of stickers and a nice mechanical pencil because I lack self-control. I think it's from the place that I purchased the fountain pen, which we can blame Furwick for. Sound effect. Oh, hi! Hey! Shears, welcome in! Drum raid! I hope you're doing well. Were you sewing tonight? Or was it a hangout stream? Welcome in. For those of you who don't know me, I'm LadyLuck34. My pronouns are she, her. And I'm a variety streamer who does crafty things and gaming things, and I talk a lot. I'm a goblin, or I live perpetually in goblin mode. I'm blaming you for the fountain pen that I purchased, and that I actually don't remember where I purchased it from. Besides that you were talking about it because you were doing your fountain pen streams, and the rest of us fell down that black hole with you. Or you sent us down that black hole. Yeah, see, Springleaf, I blame Furwork for all my fountain pen purchases. Hanging out, knitting, and fixing, nice. I'm like, I don't remember where you sent us to buy things, Furwick. But I definitely, as I'm like thinking about, and transparently, this is kind of twofold. So like stickers and washi tape and stuff for my planner, but also I have a bunch of notebooks. I've actually, as I was doing my cleaning, I realized that like 3 or 4 of them I've actually hit the end of, and I've set them to the side because I need to go through and see if there's anything I want to keep out of them, like if there are notes from projects or what have you. But I was thinking about this because I keep a notebook, or I keep a book of info about my sewing projects. I keep a book of info about my crochet projects, and I was started keeping info as it relates to, my dice projects, but I kind of threw it into an existing notebook that didn't have a lot of space. So I was kind of like, okay, well now's like a chance for me to kind of like start the year new, and why not have fun with notebooks? And then the other thing too I will say is, I had a few different kind of more journal-like books for use last year. My planner is largely a planner, and while the individual days do have enough space that I'll probably add comments and thoughts and more than just like what did I do into them, I might want more of a journaling space. So I want to have all the things. I'm like, why not buy myself more pens and stickers and washi tape? Glass dip pens, that's a whole different rabbit hole. Oh no. I like the variety of colored pens, and I like the idea of fountain pens. So far I do just have the one, because trying to keep track of ink and stuff, like I have enough stuff. I finally, in the course of my cleaning, y'all, and organizing, you can see some of my fabric back here. Finally, in the course of my cleaning and organizing, I cleared out one of my baskets that became a catch-all, and it's big enough, just large enough to hold all of the dice making stuff in it. So there's now a basket for dice making things. this little bit more traversable than the cardboard box I had it all in. And yes, we are all enabling each other's crafty habits. It is both great and terrible. Let me be silly for a second, y'all. And I actually want to ooh. That's not what I was looking for. The sewing studio I go to is introducing weaving as a class. I say, as we talk about a loom yet, I don't really have space for anything. Like, it would have to be things that can fit onto a table. I won't let, so one of the other things, I think I told you all about my debacle last year where I bought a standing desk and I was all excited. It came in and I was going to put it together, and then I opened the tabletop and it got damaged in transit. They had to send me a replacement. Well, they're not going to take back the damaged desktop, and it was like only one corner, so it's been hanging out leaned up in my hallway for months now. And actually, as I was cleaning everything here, I was taking measurements to be like, if I bought a couple of like cheap shelves that could hold weight, could I add another tabletop and like split up sewing space from like dice and other space? Unfortunately, this room is not quite long enough with the 2 desks I already have to fit. Actually, idea, hold on. Let me grab my tape measure. How wide are you? Okay. How deep are you? I have a lumen still in the box. Weeping. I mean, we also cry while we're sewing, yes, but also weaving. So theoretically, I might be able, because I was thinking about like, could I basically, if I shift the desk y'all can't see, which is what the computer is on, down a couple of inches, it'll hit the closet door. But I think there's like 3 or 4 inches of clearance on that side. The desktop, the unused desktop, is the same width as this current one. The problem is it's a deeper one. It's 30 inches. There's not 30 inches here. I think it's about 20, but I would have to remeasure because this desk is not quite 24 inches deep. So I might be able to swap to the other top sitting here and turning this one sideways to make a semi-L desk. That did not work before because I had both my computer and my sewing machine, and I kept wanting to rotate under and I would hit the legs. But in this case, it would be like I'm either doing one or I'm doing the other. I'm not necessarily trying to turn to both. So yeah, this is the problem. I will say this is one of my challenges with living in an apartment, and it just being me, is that once I get things on the wall, so like the poster and the wall scroll and stuff behind me and what have you, I'm very hesitant to move them. So as an example, you all can't see it, but directly in front of me here behind the camera is my pegboard that I actually like put anchors into the wall and stuff like that. And so I'm hesitant to completely shift this entire room because I still want to be able to reach that. Transparently, the thing you can't see right now, here, I'll turn the camera a little bit. This room is slightly problematic because this room has this very interesting load-bearing pillar in the middle of it. And as context, it's like 2 feet from the wall. So this entire part of the room becomes much more difficult to work with. Yeah, I wish it was part of the bookcase. It does match. The bookcase is behind it. There is a random load-bearing pillar 2 feet out from the wall in the middle of the room. which basically limits how I can use this room because so much needs to work around that. So like I always have to have my desks. I think every iteration that you all have seen on stream since 2020 is that my desks are always against this wall or against this wall. Because trying to do anything with this wall when there's that random pillar in the middle of the room is a no-go. This used to be a copper wire mill. It's very common in the Northeast, especially over the past couple decades, that they take old textile manufacturing, what have you, mills and buildings and things and convert them into loft apartments. So this one is actually, it used to be a copper mill. It has a very nice aesthetic from like a visual standpoint, and they actually have a lot of old photos that they use as decoration and stuff from when this still operated as that. And so it's cool, it's just, it's in the way. There's calcifer things in your cart. I have a t-shirt. I don't know that I've ever worn it to a con, but I have a t-shirt with calcifer on it that says, "May all your bacon burn," and it's such a great insult, and I have so much fun when I wear it because everybody's like, why would you say that to anyone? That's such a terrible thing to wish on them. I was like, it might be worse than wanting people to step on Legos. Which reminds me, it wouldn't let me do shoutouts within 2 minutes of each other. So we'll do 2 different styles of shoutouts here. Seen that happen in parts of Pennsylvania. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm glad that they're repurposing those buildings, and when it's done well, they're nice. Like, I really like, besides the random pillars, because the thing with it is you can just tell when they were planning that they didn't be like, how do we put this as part of the wall? They were like, well, we've already decided the layout, and you're just gonna have a random pillar that's 2 feet out. Because the last place I lived before moving here was also an old textile mill that had been converted to lofts that was not done very well. The space was not bad, but they didn't do a good job of enclosing the like vents for the central air system and what have you. So like when my heater turned on, it sounded like there was a plane in the background. It was wild. So just the big thing with it is like, you want it to be done well when it's done. This is a pricier apartment cost-wise, but I moved here for the perks and things that came with it, which included stuff like, hey, when my heater turns on, I know it's on, but like it's not a freaking jet engine in the background that people could hear through my headsets, what have you. So I know we were going to hand sew, and we are still going to maybe hand sew. This might just be you know what? Maybe this will just be a just chatting stream and I will not get any hand sewing done. Hand stitching. My old place in this building was like that when the radiators kind of older. Yeah, this was, I don't know when that last one was converted. I just think they did it more cheaply, transparently. It was, it was a cheaper rent. That's a good question, Antiquated. Let me go look. I do not know how long my VODs stay because I am not a partner. It is possible that it's only 2 weeks, so I'll have to go. I have been on and off being like, should I just be pulling my VODs so that I can upload them to YouTube even with no edits? Because if I did that, it would be way easier for you to just be like, you could go see these. The calcifer spatula's out of, no! If I highlight them, I think they stay forever. Yeah, I don't know how long they stay in my queue, even if they're no longer Those are highlights. Yep. Those are uploads. Actually, it's longer than I thought. I have some from November. That's interesting. I did, sorry, I was checking to, yeah, sorry, I was sitting here going like, so it depends on what specifically you're looking for, because I definitely got like the last bits of the quilt done within a time, or a quilt done within a time that you'd be able to see like the binding potentially and some stuff. I think the piecing would have been older streams that I probably do not have anymore. It's probably a better habit for me to just start downloading these always. Something to keep in mind. Yeah, apologies for that. That said, yeah, that's sort of the thing where I'm like, I haven't gotten in the habit of it because I forgot that they stopped archiving or keeping videos, like previous broadcasts, as long for non-partners. So that's a little bit on me. What I can do, antiquated potentially, I'm trying to think about. I guess it depends on the complexity of what you want to make. Let me look if, sorry, I'm going to take a second and be like, I had a basics of how to make a quilt saved at one point when I was still trying to learn. I can point you to a couple of the patterns that I've done. But yeah, like if nothing else, I should probably just get in the habit of downloading the VODs regardless. I have the Abyss. I have the Void. Context here for y'all. Is that I name all of my drives. So my C drive stays as a C drive. That's where I put the operating system, and that's where I put most of my programs. It's an SSD. I have a G drive, which is where I put all of my games. That's also an SSD. And then I have two standard HDDs that are like a couple terabytes each. One is called the Abyss and the other is called the Void, with the idea that these are like multiple terabyte. It's where I drop all of like my non-programs, non-games. Like, oh, I have like a bunch of random files, or all of my photos I pull off of my phone of like projects and stuff. That's where it goes. So like it's not like VODs will add up, but I can add them. Yeah, let me, I've done, yeah, sorry, I was looking at, well, you've just reminded, here we go, actually, this one's perfect. So the link I just, or the pattern link here is the Scrappy Love Quilt pattern. It takes time to do because the number of pieces, but it turns out so good. I've done multiple of these. Cypher, who was the recipient of a quilt I did in support of the Stack Up charity, got a version of this quilt. I've done multiple smaller versions, smaller like baby-sized quilts. It's a great pattern. Like, it'll take you a little bit of time to cut, and it'll take you a little bit longer to stitch than just standard squares, but the pattern is great. like very easy to understand, very well written. They have diagrams, things like that. I'm actually going to make another with that pattern. And then depending, like if you want to try like a basic simple one, you can buy they're called charm packs, so it's basically like pre-cut squares. That's what I did for my very first quilt, actually. Where is it? Here we go. My blog. I'm not the best at posting, but one of my posts, I did a little bit of a recap of the very first quilt I ever made. So it's not a tutorial, but you can kind of see in bits and pieces how it came together. I was very ambitious. It was very large, but it was simpler than the pattern, like simpler, like overall, in terms of just complexity. I bought charm packs, so I didn't have to cut the fabric myself. I just had to stitch it together. So those are like, I think some starting places. There's a lot of really good tutorials as well that I might have bookmarked, but I didn't see it right now when I took a quick look. In the meantime, I now know better. In terms of well, that's unfortunate. Some of these have muted audio. Yeah, if I come across the first tutorial I did for the basics, I'd also encourage you, I mean, I don't know how old your grandkids are. Baby size quilts, so much easier. They're like 34 inches by 45 inches. I'm able to make one in like a week once the fabric's cut, like the stitching, like size-wise, versus the larger scale quilts can get very unwieldy. So, you know, just like learning curve. And also, this is a good, like, we're gonna, of course I have no sticky notes here. I don't know where any of my sticky notes are. Alright, well, I'll write it here instead. I'll make a note to myself. This will be the remind myself to download VODs. I keep thinking about it because I do have a YouTube channel that I've on and off tried to do stuff with some years, and I ended up just sitting down and pulling everything off it. And now I'm like, should I just be uploading VODs? I mean, ideally, I'd like to do like edited videos if I was going to for YouTube. But in terms of just posterity and saving things, I could at least put the VODs up. So thanks for that. Actually, asking me that question is made me think of something else that I can do for myself. But yeah, I strongly encourage. I think you have editor, but I honestly don't know. I'm like, who even has access? I wouldn't even know where to find that. I just need to make a habit to do it. Oh, this one is a work in progress. Using some fabrics that I was just having fun with. Thank you for that sub. So, hold on. Let me see see if I can make this work where you can see it. I saw a couple of Disney villain themed fabrics that I really liked, and then I picked some things too. You all can't see it. This one is, I'm free motion quilting this one. You can kind of see it on the back. The back might be easier for you to see the stitching. Where are you at? This one's barely done. I need to get to work on it, but you can kind of see the thread here. So yeah, this is quilt number, I don't know, 6? I made a lot of quilts in the last 3 months. But yeah, thank you for the sub. Also, I would be interested, this is a slight aside. Twitch, when they first had like the pre-roll or the ad things pop up, were very good about having like this bright pink thing appear and be like, yo, an ad's gonna run in 5 minutes. I don't see that anymore, so most of the time I don't realize ads are gonna run until it's already happening and they're like, hey, an ad is running. And I'm like, well, crap. I'm also really bad at taking breaks and running ads during breaks because I just go. This is quilt number 6. Here's quilt number 7, which is already pre-cut, and I just have to actually stitch it together. So this will probably be my off-stream project over the next week and a half. Actually, I might end up doing some of it on stream. I'm doing the Scrappy Love pattern here, but with different fabrics. And quilt 8 is somewhere also in a bin, partially cut. Actually, I've barely begun cutting that one. So there's more to be done on that one. But yes, so that's 8. 9 is in a bag over here off screen where you all can't see it, which is a quilt for myself. The quilts I thought I was going to make for myself last year. That never happened. I haven't even opened any of the packaging for the materials. That's actually, this is a good example. So for some quilts, you can buy the fabric and cut it yourself. And then for others, you can peel, like I did. I bought a jelly roll, which is basically long strips that I will then cut to size. So you can kind of see there's a rainbow of colors. This one's a kind of like sparkly speckled. You all can't see it, but that's, you know, there's little, maybe you can hear. The lighting isn't great for that. So this is the same as like doing charm packs, which is like I might have to cut them down to size, but I don't have to cut everything. Sometimes cutting is nice. Sometimes it sucks. This bag is really funny. It has the stuff for my own quilt. It has a mixture of yarn and things, and then it has a interfacing that's heat resistant that I thought I was gonna make pot holders with, and eventually I will make pot holders with it, but it's not yet. I think that bag just became a like, oh, I need somewhere to put this, throw it in the bag. It was originally supposed to be the project bag for my quilt. I have a couple other quilt patterns that I have purchased, but I'm happy to link them if you would like. I cannot speak to the good or bad of the pattern and the tutorial and the complexity yet because I have not made them. But the Scrappy, the one I linked, very, very good pattern that I appreciate how they break down the fabrics, the materials you need to buy, how they should be cut if you're cutting them. The different ways you could go about it, the visuals for the construction and everything, which is why I've used it multiple times, and it's going to be a quilt over here. Oh yeah, so selfishly what I was going to do is I was going to show you all a bunch of fabric because I lack self-control and I don't know how much I've shown off to you all before. So net, actually what I will do, I will show you all the hand stitching that we're not getting to tonight. Some of you have seen this before because I made the bulk of this last year. And again, it's just the finishing touches I didn't get to. Because who finishes their projects? Not me, apparently. I did not iron this very well, apparently. So we are going to clip it. But this is my Joker themed blazer, which was not originally meant to be Joker themed, but then it became Joker themed and it was funny, so we kept it. Like, it was a decision made in the middle of the project where it's like, this would be great if this was like a bright green. And so between classes, this was a sewing class project, between classes I went out and found a bright green fabric that would work. So this is my blazer. Have nice little, let me scoot back so y'all, chair's in the way. I finished 25 sewing projects, including 5 quilts. So, so this one's fun. First is the way that this blazer pattern is, there's multiple pieces around. It's not just front and back. So it's more fitted. So this one actually, what I really like about this pattern is it's not just the number of pieces to size, they actually have different pieces for bust size as well. So you can fit it to you, and a lot of that is being done by the pattern. And then there's different ways that you can do the sleeves. So if we zoom in a little bit, you can see there's a teeny tiny puff to my sleeve here, which was deliberate. So all I have left to do on this one, again, finishing touches, I need to hand stitch my sleeve hem. It's not a requirement, but I'm going to stitch. So this is basically, this green pop is an interior paneling, and what I'm going to do is essentially stitch it. It's open. Let me so you can see it's open. Basically, I'm going to stitch it down all the way around, so it's just time consuming to do. But yeah, basically I was like, for fun, I want a contrast color as my stitching, so I had picked out this like bright green. And then as we were going about it, we're like, well, why not? You all can't see it very well, but in the pocket, it's purple across the top and then green on the inside. So you get like this very Joker pop of color villain mode. So I made this like middle of last year, and I just need to do the finishing touches on it to clean it up and do it. So like you can kind of see the collar and everything here. So this one's fun. I actually have a second, more boring blazer fabric already cut out, and I just need to actually stitch it. I did my first bucket hat. This was, so you can see, blue on the inside and a black. This is really hard to tell, but there's little very light blue stripes on this. You sew it together, and then you have an opening that you basically use to pull it through, so I just need to stitch that closed. This was a tuss bag that I made, a tote with things in it apparently. So if you can see it, these are really, really fun, cute succulents. And then sewing things on the side. And then a pretty flowery. So again, you put it all together and you have an opening, you pull it through. So the opening is down here that I need to stitch together. You can machine stitch these. They're just easier, or they look better when they're hand stitched. For you all that remember when we did the boozy backpack, similarly, where I turned it, actually not where I turned it in, I was going to hand stitch some of the last bits on the edges here. Hey DC, welcome in. Shout out to DC because as we were talking about earlier as I was talking about earlier in stream, I was talking about some of my goals from 2023 and this sort of recap. And one of the things was like figuring out auto shout outs and other stuff. And it's like, hey, I booked DC to run me through production-y things, and we figured all of that out. And then I promptly broke it all and then sort of fixed it. Yeah, so I have 4 projects that are hand sewn that I just need to finish off with some hand stitching, which will be fine. Oh, let me show you all. I found this and it was on sale for obvious reasons, and I'm so unbelievably excited. I told you I was making bucket hats for my family, for my parents, and I found this fabric, and I'm gonna make a bucket hat out of this because I think it's funny, even if they won't use it again until next year, which is... They're sharks with Santa hats. Sharks with Santa hats. I'm gonna make a hat out of this. My parents will think it's funny, so I'm gonna send it to them. Yes, it was a, it's a blazer. Yes, yes, yes. So a suit jacket, that I made last year at some point. I don't know, what is time? But yes, I finished a lot of quilts. Sorry, now I'm gonna actually read chat. Yeah, it's my villain blazer. It's like unintentionally we're like, we should, so you all can't see it, but basically from the very beginning of this project, at the time, I don't know how easy it is to see, but I was using, there we go, a similar green thread as a contrast because I thought we were going to do a bunch of top stitching, and then the pattern didn't require any top stitching. So we're like, well, if you wanted a contrast like that to pop out off of this like deep purple, why don't you use the green and make the collar? So I did. This is what happens when you sit in a class with other people and we're like, how can we make this more difficult and more ridiculous? You choose the second fabric partway through. I did do a little bit of top stitching, so I do have some accents beyond the collar. But yeah, we went from it's like gonna be a plain purple blazer to we've now made a Joker blazer. So I need to do some hand stitching, and then this fabric frays, and you can kind of see there frays a lot. So I did some zigzag kind of overclocking stitch on it, and then I'll just take scissors through, and that should clean that up. But there you go. Every VOD is being highlighted except, yeah, the Resident Evil 4 stream that kept dropping. I will do my best, but welcome in DC. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, so I was talking about it where I'm like, I have multiple projects between this and a couple of crochet projects that are basically, you know, with an hour or two, a couple hours of work max, done, like done, not just, you know, the body's constructed, but like completely finished, that I've just left sitting from last year. So one of the things I'm going to be doing around a couple other things is just kind of cleaning all of those up and getting them done. I'm going to sew a couple hats, bucket hats to send my family. I'm going to sew 3 bucket hats, and then I was actually crocheting a bucket hat, which is also like 2/3 done. So I'll probably get all of that done. Originally, I was going to make them a quilt, and I still am, but I'm kind of getting through these other couple of quilts, and then I'll work on that on and off. Maybe that'll be their Christmas gift next year, or their Christmas gift for 2024. So what I'm going to do is I'll pack the hats into the Boozy backpack, which is basically done, and I will mail them that hopefully this month so that they get something. Also, I have to show you all because I needed to get an additional fabric for the hats, and I was browsing through remnants because you never know. So like a Joanne, and honestly, I feel like also like local non-chain stores. So one of the local places I also shop at, Lorraine's, has like a shelving area where they do remnants, and sometimes it's like a half yard or a yard, and sometimes you get like, I have a 2.5 yard wool blend that's super nice. And so I always browse through the remnants because you never know what you'll come across and how much it'll be. It's usually really good deals. And Joanne had several remnants, and they were doing an extra like, oh, this will be extra discounted. So I got this lovely, sorry, let me turn the light. Let me move the light for you all. Red lace. It's not a full yard, but it would probably be fun as like an accent to something where you just cut parts of it to stitch on. So lovely. But even better than that, and I don't know how well this will show, but I don't want to open it right now, this is a yard, there you go, y'all can't see it very well, of a blue lacy, and there's sequins on it. Now, this was, in its original life before it became a remnant of 1 yard left, $30 a yard. Which, like, after visiting New York fabric shops is not that expensive, but for me, trying to buy, like, at, like, $5 a yard, $30 a yard is a lot. It was so discounted, I got it for under $3. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I got it. And this is why going fabric shopping is dangerous. Well, going anything shopping when stuff is discounted is dangerous. But for fun, we're not going to do any hand stitching tonight because I'm having too much fun talking at you all. Chatting with you all, since you get to talk back at me via the chat. Let me show you a couple of fun fabrics that I have. So first, this guy. Let's see. Oh, this one's good. I didn't do a very good job of storing all of this because I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do it, so I don't even feel bad about making a mess of it by... Woo! You go there. Also, the music stopped. Ooh, this one's going to be so fun whenever I finally use it for something. Okay. Allow me to bring all of you a pile of fabrics that I feel like showing off. Hear me out. Online fabric thrift shop. I mean, there's like the woman who sells fabric she finds in estate sales, which I think are really, really cool. She finds some really good vintage stuff. So we're just going to go through a mix of things. So first off is this fabric, which is metallic, kind of like, I don't know how well you can see, it's florals, but done in like little boxes and squares, so as a mosaic almost. And this one's funny. I bought this one forever ago, very early on in my sewing journey. And first off, I have 4 yards. It was not marked. We couldn't figure out what it was. I'm pretty sure it's a polyester because it doesn't have much stretch to it. And I was like, I don't know what it is. So early on, I was like, I don't know what to do with you. But I have 4 yards of it, and I think it's a polyester. I've already washed it, and it did fine. So that one will be fun to do something with one day. Similarly, this one I do know what it is, but it is funny because I was like, why did I buy this besides that it was really cool looking? So this is, it's literally described as a foil-ribbed, slinky gunmetal. So a relatively thin, so I would probably pair this with a lining on whatever I make, but also shiny. Most of these I buy when they're on sale or I come across them in the clearance section. This one's a polyester spandex blend. I've not done the burn test on it yet, but I might eventually. All right, here's the comedy that I can tell you all of. I've bought multiple polyester spandex knits with the purpose of making leggings. The first one was purchased to make leggings and it was on sale. But now I've managed to buy 4. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Some of them, it's not even a little amount. It's like, here's 4 freaking yards. So I think this was the very first one I bought, which is this lovely kind of scale, also metallic, in this nice, brilliant turquoise that I bought 4 yards of and then was like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. Leggings, one day. It was like heavily discounted, so I purchased this. This is a Yaya Han cosplay fabric. But then at some point, this is where it gets real funny, besides the fact that I have 4 different of this particular type of fiber that I intended to make leggings with. At some point in the future, I bought the exact same fabric in a different color. Apparently forgetting I already had the turquoise. So this is like a light blue. Exact same fabric. Different color. Clearly no planning. You all will appreciate this third one, which is also a printed, or this one's a printed knit, and it is comic book, wham, pow, zap, what have you. Also a polyester spandex knit that I could make leggings. I could make a dress out of this. Yeah, I'm like, I'm not just making me clothes. Clearly I'm making Susie clothes too. It's really funny too, because as I was telling you all, or talking about earlier, how I want to kind of build my little tracking system with index cards, is right now I have them pinned to the fabric, so I know what they are, but I write them all, and so it's like, okay, this is, the brand is Witching Hour, it's a comic printed knit. I have what the fiber content is, I have what the care directions are. This one's a hand wash cold. I mark the width, so this one in particular is 57 inches wide. I did 3 yards, and then I have a big question mark, which was, I bought this and I don't know what pattern I thought I was going to use it with yet. Now, twofold here is something people I don't know if this comes up in other crafts as much, but it's said relatively often, I feel, with sewing and fabrics, is that if you see a fabric that you really like or you love, buy it. Because fashion is so seasonal, and by like different years' collections, that once it's gone, it might be gone. Now, there's some of the kind of standard cottons, you know, the keepsake calicos, the quilters showcase and stuff like that, where like those are almost always available via quilters. Some of the fabrics might get swapped out, but I have reasonable confidence, unless it's a special collection, like they did some artist series and things like that, that those cottons will be available again in the future. But when it comes to kind of fashion apparel, fashion fabrics and stuff that are very seasonal, like there's several brands you can get at Joann. They specifically are like, this was the summer 23 collection, this was the fall 23 collection. So you do have a small chance that that particular fabric will come back the next year when that fall collection comes again, but there's no guarantee. So for some of these, I would see it and be like, if it's on sale and I am comfortable with the cost, and it's clearly not like a cotton that will very obviously be available all the time, I'm buying it. So I think that's a little bit of how I got some of these, is like, if it was on sale or it was in the clearance section, or I had like, you know, a 50% off coupon or what have you, and it was clearly not one of like the standard, like this is a standard satin or a standard linen in black. There'll always be a linen in black. That's like a base fabric and color that will always be available. But anything that's like prints, like this one, the comic book one, that's when you're like, okay, I'm gonna buy it, because you don't know when this is gone and if it'll ever come back. So there's 3. I said there were 4. The 4th one is the one I'm most excited to one day make with. They're all great, but this one just is so fun. So also a metallic, but this one is Stars and Moons. Like trying to make sure the light reflects where you can actually see the stars and moons. This is another like 3 yards of the type of fabric you would buy for leggings. I don't know why I'm making so many pairs of leggings, apparently. I could also use this for a bunch of other stuff, but I think initially when I was purchasing all of this, I was buying it for leggings. For the projects that I know and that are not ones I use repeatedly, I actually pull out the pattern and set it with it. But this one's funny to me, where like as I was going through all my fabric, I was like, when did I accumulate 4 different polyester spandex blends for making leggings with? That's what I did for some cotton fabric. Yeah. So, and here's the thing, is like most fabric, almost all fabric, I buy on sale. At Joann specifically. One, because they're always running some sale. And then a couple of the local non-chain shops like Lorraine's that I go to just has very reasonable prices, and they have different types, or not fiber blends, but they usually have different prints, different palettes. They tend to have more like silks and taffetas and things than necessarily Joann. Most of my Joann stores here, like the 3 that are in closest proximity, very heavily cater their stock to quilters, to people doing cotton. Like I went through, I had to run in, it's when I got those lace remnants. I was running in because I needed a couple things of cotton fabric for the stuff for my parents and the sharks with the Christmas hats, with the Santa hats. And like for the winter holiday, they had taken what was usually maybe like 10 aisles of apparel fabrics and consolidated it down to basically like 4, if that, to make space for more fleece, more flannel, and more cotton for the like holiday winter season. So like I respect them adjusting their stock for what the majority of their sales are, but it is kind of indicative that that's the audience they cater to a bit more. Lorraine's, the other shop that I go to that's most local, is much like the majority of their stock is apparel fabric and then decor fabric, and they have a very, very small selection of cottons and like quilter centric materials. So I just kind of go to different shops for different things. And transparently, a lot of fabric that I bought, before I realized how much I'd kind of gone overboard with how much, or like the multiples of one type, it was me saying, well, let me buy this fabric. It's discounted or it's on sale or whatever. It's in clearance at Joann. It's cheaper for me to get, and I've never worked with it before, so I can do like a test build with it, because I'd rather do a test build of leggings with fabric that I spent $4 a yard on than go spend $20 a yard for the really nice stuff and then botch the first time I make it. I do have like, I don't know, 8 or 10 yards of muslin for doing test builds on, but that's a test build when I'm testing the pattern, not when I'm testing the fabric, because those are 2 separate things. Muslin is when I'm saying, how do I make sure that the pattern is correct and sized correctly for me, so that when I'm ready to cut the nice fabric to make the final version, I'm cutting it to the correct size. Versus there's a lot of fabric here in my stash that are fabrics I've never worked with. Like I have I'll show you another one. I have I have 2 here that I will show you that are both green, which is actually really funny to me. I have a very lovely this is the back side, but a very lovely matte green satin. Botanical Garden is the color. I've not worked with satin before. That I will be making a skirt with. Not the really long one, there's a shorter one. Similarly, I have a crushed pan velvet, also in green. Not intentional, just worked out that way. That I'm going to be making a coat out of. This coat. And I haven't worked with satin, and I haven't worked with velvet. And this is a stretch velvet too. So like buying them super, super cheap in this instance was about getting the opportunity to try working with these fabrics. Now, do I have multiple satins in here? Absolutely, because I lack self-control. And anybody who doesn't know that about me already, well, guess what? You do now. And then the last fabric that I wanted to show you all, that I think I mentioned earlier. Let's see. Going between Joann's and this place on the South Shore of Long Island. That's a local shop, and it's really nice. This is Shop Doggo. Those are always the best. Best fabric test we found was bed sheets. No, I'm not going to miss the skirt recently made. And here's the thing. I have a friend who does a lot of like thrifting out of like Savers and Goodwill and stuff like that, finding curtains and sheets and stuff like that. But she already has an existing much stronger understanding of fabrics, like the different types of fabrics, and she works largely with cotton these days than I do. So she can more easily see a fabric that doesn't have any information about it and say, oh, this is X, that'll work perfectly for my needs. I am not that good at it. I am not great at recognizing, like, is this the material? Like, what do I think this is? Shiny and soft and warm, hopefully. Velvet's great, and also the devil. Like, that's the thing. I'm sure it'll be an adventure, but it's mostly me figuring out where it's like I've enjoyed working with most fabrics. Knits are still kind of my enemy. But figuring out, like, okay, what do I enjoy working with most? What can I explore and test with? And then how can I learn to work with some of the things that I'm less good at working with? So let me show you this last one, which I bought because it was on sale. Significantly discounted. And this one will be an adventure. I don't know what I'm going to use this for. But this is a chain knit metallic with black and gold that from far enough away looks like chainmail. Or it looks like a kind of chainmail. It is actually mesh-like. You can see it. So like it's something that I would obviously be, it would either be an accent piece to go over something else, or I would be layering it with a liner or something underneath. I have no freaking clue what I'm going to use this for. I bought it because I was like, that's really, really cool, and it's on sale, and I don't know if I'm ever going to see it again. But like, this is fun. Worked with silk satin. That was a fun challenge. Hardest one I worked with chiffon. Yeah, that's the thing. I think some of the sheer stuff, like tulle, chiffons, maybe silks, like true silks, would be more challenging. I haven't done much with brocades yet, so that's also on my list. I have a few projects with that. I have 1, 2, 3 within sight. 4, sorry. So yeah, so like this will be a fun one to do something with eventually. Who knows how long it'll take me. I also have, this one's really funny to me because I don't even know when I bought this, except for it was at the very bottom of my piles, which sort of tells me that I bought it very early on and it must have been in the clearance section. I don't know what I'm ever gonna do with this, y'all. It is a geometric, hold on, let me actually like read it. Geometric patterned, textured pleather. I don't know what I thought I was gonna make with this, y'all. But I bought it. And like I said, this was at the very bottom of my piles, which means that I bought this really early on. Like this had to have been, I was walking through Joann clearance aisle when I was like maybe a couple months into my sewing journey, and I hadn't made anything more than like a dress and a tissue holder and a pillowcase. And I bought this. I do not know what I thought I was going to do with it then, but I found it. I was like, wow, this is really cool. What the heck am I going to make with this? And it's like a pretty thick pleather too. I have a couple that are like a softer, more malleable pleather. Not this. This one's pretty sturdy. This is leggings. I do have, so this one I did write a pattern with a question mark on it. So I think I was like, could I make this with it? Which is for a moto jacket. So kind of slightly shorter, not like full length, probably in between waist and hip length, with an asymmetrical front zipper, which might be cool, but it also might be a pain. MC Usher would be proud. Like, whenever I make these into something, they're gonna be something. These aren't even the fabrics that are in my like first list of things to work on this year. There's a couple that like I'll probably be able to do in the afternoon. There's stuff like, you all have probably seen this one before, but it's fun, so I'll show it to you. I have this fired brick foil denim. This is a denim, y'all. Which you can see on the other side. It's a thinner denim, but it's a denim. I have just enough here. I'm gonna make overall shorts out of these. It's gonna be great. I don't know what I originally thought I was gonna make with it. This was also a clearance, like end of a bolt. So I got a discount for taking it off, but it's not even a full 2 yards. So I was like, what the heck can I make with this? And eventually I found a pattern for overall shorts. Which you can see here in the corner. Not very well in the corner. So, you know, that's probably, let me pull the list off and I can tell you all. So here we go. I have it written. This is the new initial list. This is not every project. This is just the ones that are already set off to the side. So I have the pattern number and what I think I'm making with it. So like I have the overall shorts. I have a, similar to that weird pleather, be an awesome denim jacket, right? The issue with that one is it's like 1 5/8 yards. I would have to check, but I don't have a lot of patterns that make jackets with that little material. I want to say, hold on, where's the moto jacket? Is that not that one? Here. Oh, almost threw something. Yeah, it would be too short. So this is the, it's an example. I don't know how well it's showing up. I'm sorry. The light's like reflecting terribly off of it. You can see the dude, you just can't see her very well. Cameras are, lighting is the worst. So this is the moto jacket, and even I would need almost 2 yards, so it would be too short to make this. I think I considered this at one point. This, here's a fun one. This I'm going to make the initial one because it is over in the to be made project side. will be with one of these pleathers, which some of y'all might have seen previously. For some reason, I have call it three different cuts of this teal pleather. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know why, but I have 3 different cuts. So one of those cuts will be used to make a moto jacket. And then I don't know what the other 2 are going to be used for, but I got them. I think originally I bought one of them for my test with like the belt. Do you all remember the red belt? I think I originally bought a color where I was like, oh, I'll do a test with the red perforated pleather, and then once I figure it out, I can use the pretty teal pleather. And then it was such a hassle to sew that I was like, oh no, this won't be fun to do. So I have it. They are the same material. That was the one that kept breaking the machine and we kept having trouble. The 2 things that I've had trouble with were the pleather. I think because I just didn't know how to stitch with it. And I don't know if I still have that somewhere. Hold on a second. Sorry, I have to keep going off screen because I'm like, wait, it might be over here. Do I still have that belt? Oh. I have a bin right now that's just a bin full of junk. And by junk, I mean a whole bunch of fabric. I thought I still had the red belt, but I might have finally just gotten rid of it or given it away. Oh, nope, there it is. Haha. I can tell I'm like, this is too precisely cut. Alright, let me see if I remember how to put this on. Do this way. It's also very convoluted. I'm like, can we just do this, but make it like a zipper in the back so that it's a lot easier to get on and off? When I make something without considering the complexity of wearing it. Whoops. This was the test build of this belt, by the way, that I will show you all once I actually have it all the way on. Hold on a second. I was like, I know it's here somewhere. Welcome to show and tell of all of the nonsense that I made last year, is really what I feel this is. Or all the nonsense of fabric I bought last year that now I'm like, why did I buy that? What was I thinking when I bought that? Oh, you want to know why this thing is not working? Because I didn't actually put it on the correct way. Okay. Also, I hope the commentary off screen is very entertaining for you all. I promise I will be back on screen in just a second. Okay, this was the red belt. So I don't know if this is actually supposed to be the front or the back, but so you have the 2 pieces. I have 3 kind of elements that are little belty things on the belt. Well, 1 junk fabric box, I should say. Thank you for that hydrate reminder. So this was my test version because I hadn't worked with pleather before, or like a faux leather. So it's a lot of very precise stitching that you need to do. Yes, I made it on stream last year. I say last year because I'm pretty sure, well, last year, in that I don't remember now if this was 22 or 23. This might have been one of the Halloween 22 projects, or the October. So I don't know how well it shows, but there's essentially these little bits with D-rings here. That I have stitched on. So, and I put this peppermint fabric that was on sale as the back side, because I thought it was funny. But yeah, so there's 3, they're basically stitched from this side all the way around, and then there's placement. If you saw the stitching on this, it's really, truly terrible. It's not very clean. At this point, by the time I got to putting each of these bits on, I was so frustrated with this project. So this was the test build, and I think my idea at the time, because I love the idea of doing these really tall, wide belts. I like these as accent pieces to things that I wear, especially either like tunics or, so here you can kind of see there, you have the 3 ends, and then on the far side, it goes around, you have your D-rings that hold it. So I thought that I have, so I like using belts as accent pieces for like longer tops worn like tunics and then dresses. And so that was my test build, and my original plan was I would test build, and then that teal pleather was going to be one of the second. So I actually have 2. I have the teal pleather, and I also have this like deep purplish brown, like a fig color pleather as well. So I don't remember how we got on this topic. But I like large belts, and that was what I was testing out working with pleather. That was the first time I'd ever sewn with it. And then with the idea that I would do that, I also, in that same red, I have on the list, with that same red, because I have a bunch of it still left over, I have a test build of a wrist bracer. Like a leather, old school bracer. That is still on the list. So yeah, so the list is, so funny story. First on the list, there's a maroon dress with buttons. I'd never done buttons earlier on in the process. So when I first bought this fabric, it's a linen and a very pretty kind of maroonish purple. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I would love to wear this. I'll make it. And then I was like, oh, I've never used buttons before. So I've had this fabric since like a month after I started sewing. Still sitting here. Everything's there. It's ready to be made. And I just hadn't gotten around to it. So that's on the list. Sorry, let me circle back because I missed the just one junk box. So I should quantify. I have 1 large bin that's the scraps of fabric from previous projects. It is primarily apparel fabric right now. I have pulled out all of my cotton that will at some point go into its own bin. Right now it's just piled up on top of that, so it's a little bit excessive. That's also the one that I was talking about that I was going to try and make a little index record of the various fabrics, so that rather than me just digging through the bin being like, what am I looking for, I can pull everything out, or pull out the fabric cards, index cards I've made, put it in there, and just put a piece of fabric onto it. So we have that. We have the foil, or the metallic denim for the overall shorts. You all might remember, I did it in class, but I did a little bit of stitching on stream, I think, from late 22, that I made a too large, because I don't know how to size things appropriately, bomber jacket. This was a test. It is too large, but I made one. And there was a whole comedy of errors around this project because I was taking it as a class, and I had to miss a class because I was traveling for work. And then I caught COVID on that trip, so I came back from the trip, and I missed a second class because I was sick. And so it was this whole thing where I was so far behind on the class that we kind of did a modified, here's what I'm going to make. So that particular pattern can do zipper pockets. So I have 2 separate brocade fabrics that I can show you all. And all of the notions and materials I need for it. To make more bomber jackets, because why not make more? So the first one, which will be the test build, or not the test build, I have a different fabric for a test build, is this maroon with this kind of like bronzish detailing on the brocade. So one is meant to be that. And then I have another one, which is harder for me to get to, that is has metallic stitching, light blue brocade. Those were ones, I made that jacket, the one in class, I think in like fall, late 22. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to make another one in no time. Guess what? By the time I get to that, it'll be a year and a half. So I have 2 potential bomber jackets there. I kind of really want to make them because they're 2 different colors and so they'll give me 2 distinct looks in addition to the moto jacket. Let's see, so that's that. I have 2, you all might remember I did the red cropped hoodie, and that specific fabric I used was a pont knit. Thank you for hanging out. Cheers. Happy New Year. I hope that you had fun. I appreciate you coming in on the raid. So good sleeps. But I had that like red pont knit. Also, I should caveat here, I only read the words for the fabrics. I don't hear them said, so I might be saying all of these wrong. Like it might be ponte rather than pont. P-O-N-T-E. But so I really liked that, the thickness and the sturdiness of that fabric, and the how that cropped hoodie turned out. It was actually, for those of you that saw the pictures from PAX Unplugged, that was the basis, that pattern was the basis for how I made the Team Rocket white hoodie. So I really like that fabric, and I happened at one point to be in the store, and that particular fabric was on sale, and I found a really pretty purple and a really pretty blue, and happened to stumble across a pattern of cropped exercise jackets. So those are on the list. They should, again, theoretically, some of these are like smaller, less complicated projects. Emphasis on theoretical. In the sense that like some of these will be more convoluted, and others will be like, okay, once I cut the fabric and I sit down, I'm willing to sew it, I could probably do it in a weekend without too much trouble. So we have the pleather moto jacket, which I already showed you all. I'm going through the list. We have the wrist bracer, which I mentioned. I have a teal knit fabric that looks almost exactly like a teal knit I made a dress of last year, but which is not the same fabric, and it's not the same color despite them looking very similar. I do have that marked as being for a dress. I'm not 100% sure if I will keep it, because it is, again, or keep that or set the fabric aside for a different use, because it is very similar to that one I made previously. I have the blazer with the fabric I've already cut in a gabardine. And then I have like a thin mesh breathable fabric to make another exercise top. And not on this list is the test fabric for the zipper pocket bomber jacket, because I don't want to use the brocades until I've actually done the correct build. Because as you saw with this other one, it's one too large, two didn't have the zipper pockets, I didn't have time to during that class. So anyways, this was my really, really long way of talking to you all about all of the fabrics and things that at least some of the things I hope to get to make this year, if that makes sense. We are not going to get through every one of these projects, because hold on, let's swap real quick so I can show you all. As I put in my January, don't get overwhelmed and overcommit. Don't get overwhelmed and overcommit. So my hope is that I will get to knock out some of these projects this year, but since I will be mixing, it's very important that I showed it to you all. I legitimately wrote it in my notes for January. But because I'm going to be balancing, or that I'm going to try better this year to balance sewing and crochet and dice making and games, and occasionally doing stuff with other people, and finishing a couple of quilts. I don't want to be like, yes, I'm going to sew all of these projects. Because if nothing else, the back-to-back quilts in the last couple of months of the year did kind of, like, I enjoyed doing it, but at the same time it ended up being very mentally overwhelming, to the point that once I got through, basically I got to PAX Unplugged, which is like, I had completed and delivered all the ones that I had committed to with hard deadlines that weren't, in the next couple months. That I was like, I don't even want to look at a sewing machine. And I still had quilts to work on. I still have quilts to work on. So it was like, I want to avoid, there's always the chance that you'll get slightly overwhelmed, or that you'll burn yourself out on one particular craft, and that's fine. Or like need to take a break from it. But I definitely overcommitted. And while I enjoyed sewing them, I didn't enjoy the pressure I put on myself, that I think was, and in fairness to the recipients of all those quilts and stuff like that, it was exacerbated by the proximity to the holidays, by the that I was trying to get things done before I went to PAX Unplugged, by the fact that there was stuff going down at work. I basically came back from PAX Unplugged, and the very next week is when they had done layoffs. It was mid-December. So there was definitely, like, there were already stressors in other parts of my life. Like, I like attending cons, and I like doing panels and doing live shows and things like that. But it certainly added, there's always like a base level amount of stress and anxiety just associated with doing those. Like, am I going to be on top of my game? Do I have all the things prepped that I need to get done? What have you? So between the stuff going on with work, trying to get stuff done in time for the holidays, trying to get stuff done before PAX Unplugged, the stress of PAX Unplugged, which, like, I had a blast. I had a blast at PAX Unplugged. I got to see everybody. It was fun. Leaf and I caused nonsense and bought things. I got to play in another Motherlands one-shot, which I loved, and I can't wait until that system's, completed and released. It's on page 28 of the mission briefing. I missed that page. Remember, I didn't read it. My Volca ate my homework. Or coughed a fireball onto it and burned it to a crisp. But so all of that was happening, and then I had layered multiple projects on top of it. And I think it was just an instance of too many things, like too many conflicting things in my life. Like, it would have been a lot of projects by itself, but probably still, like, mentally manageable. But when I layered it with all of those other things happening, that just, like, ratcheted the stress up a whole bunch. So it's kind of like one of my things in my recap was I was like, listen, I overcommitted with all of those other factors. If I had not been going to PAX Unplugged and I'd had the benefit of, like, an extra week or two for some of the things I was working on, and what have you, I probably would have been less stressful. But so a lot of this year, it's why I was like, one, let me use materials I already have on hand so I can clear stuff out, and so that I'm not just bringing in more stuff. Because, like, quilts, this is on the back of my chair right now. I have been moving this quilt around this room for weeks because it's constantly in the way. Projects take up space. Unused materials take up space. Part of why I was cleaning everything and trying to get a little bit, like, reorganized is because I'd just been dumping stuff into bins and baskets and like, this quilt was just thrown on top of a bunch of other stuff on one of the shelves because I was like, I just need you to be out of the way right now. When I cleaned everything, I was like, wow, I have so much more space than I thought. It was just so badly organized because I was just dumping stuff wherever I thought there was room. So all of this to say is, like, obviously I have a list, I have a lot of projects. That's less because I feel like I need to complete all of them in 2024 or whatever the case may be, and more so that I just have an idea of what materials I have and what projects. Like, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different projects that are coats or jackets. So guess what? When I'm looking at materials or I'm looking at patterns, I don't need more coats. I don't need more jackets. I got plenty of those to make right now. So it's a little bit of me, like, having an idea of what I have on hand so that if for some reason I wanted to make something or pick up some new materials, whatever the case may be, like new patterns, I'm not going to go buy one of 15 I already have. Which is my long rant of saying that I'm going to try to be a little bit more balanced, and I'm not going to overcommit. I'm going to complete the 2 quilts that I have to get done that are not for myself, and then probably take a break. So if I do end up doing any charity fundraising in the first few months of the year, I will probably pick something else besides a quilt for them for the project. I might just stick strictly to gaming with incentives or what have you, but again, do things that bring me joy. And while, like, overall making a quilt brings me joy, stressing myself out with it does not bring me joy. But yeah, it was a whole lot at once. Look at my homework excuse, listen. And I think this is the one thing I will say for last year. And it's part of why some of my goals are very light. I think saying things like, I'm gonna sew 10 projects, I'm gonna do 5 resin projects. You all think about it, I've made like 13 sets of dice already, so doing in like the last 6 weeks, so doing 5 is nothing. But it's not about volume, it's about pacing myself, and that's what I want to do for this year. is that I want to pace myself and I want my things to bring me joy and not to stress me out. Like last year, and I will say too, like last year was exacerbated by a whole lot of other things, by work, by the industry as a whole. I haven't talked about it a lot on stream, but you all know, like I did not stream a lot during the summer last year, and that's because work went absolutely, completely sideways in about mid-May, and I got assigned to a project that was taking up so much time, and I had another project take off wildly. And then all of my regular work was still there and stuff. And like I was working, 50-hour weeks, 50-plus-hour weeks, and I didn't have the energy to craft. I didn't have the energy to stream, which is why I didn't do a lot over the summer. And unfortunately, I think like that stress and that just like being run down from how much was happening, like carried over into other things and carried on through the end of the year. And like it's just what it is. The fact that you made them so cool, like clothes are neat, but you made that I love that so much. Yeah. And that's the thing where it's like and that's why when I was doing my recap for 23 that I was writing, where it's like, hey, I sewed 25 projects last year, 5 of which were quilts. I picked up dice making. I finished 4 video games, including Tears of the Kingdom on the 30th of December, so well done me. But I put over 110 hours into that game. So it's not like it was like, oh, I spent like 20 hours over the course of 7 months. Like, no, I spent 110 hours over the course of 7 months. So like I own all of the accomplishments. 100%. I did those things. I'm so proud of them. I think when I just look at like how kind of how everything went and how it came about, that I want to acknowledge the ways in which it could have gone better. And some of those factors are outside of my control, but some of them are within my control. So as I think about this year, to your point, Leaf, trying to take it easier in such a way that I'm not burning myself out doing this stuff, that it's consistently fun. There will still be days like I had this is not on stream, but at one point I was trying to sew, I think it was a bag, not sew, crochet a bag, and like nothing was working. Nothing was working. It was not going well. Nothing was to size. The stitches were wrong. I was having so much trouble, and like I cried. I was like, I don't want to look at a crochet hook for the next 6 months because it was so frustrating. And then so I was like, you know what? Part of I guess like deprogramming yourself is being willing to put down or discontinue doing something you don't enjoy. So I finally was like, you know what? This is not going to be whatever I thought it was. Let's just unwind this entire thing that I started, set it to the side, and then I went and picked up a very, very simple, can make it in like 2 hours project, and crocheted that, and it made me feel so much better. And then I didn't look at my crochet hook for like, because it's I compare it to when I ran the Boston Marathon, which is at the end of the race, I was proud of finishing it and I had a decent time, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I didn't want that to be what I took and carried with me for however long until I ran my next marathon. And so I ended up with a friend. We signed up for a marathon that was like 6 weeks after Boston that year that allowed bib transfers. And I went and I just had such a better race. Not even just like time, though I ran a better time, but just like everything about that race was better. And that's what I wanted to take away when I went into post-marathon break, was I didn't want a lackluster or disappointing or frustrating or saddening or I never want to do this again type of thing weighing on me. So with that crochet project, that was it, where I was like, I was so frustrated. I wanted to like chuck my crochet hook across the room, and I was like, I do not want to step away from this hobby for however long, whether it's a couple days or a couple weeks or longer, with that mentality being the last thing I remember, which is why I did this very small, very simple, in like 2 hours project afterwards. Was I was like, I want something that brings me joy, and then I can step away from it. But part of that is being willing to say, hey, this project isn't working, and set it aside. The number of games I've been willing to be like, I'm not enjoying this, I don't need to play this, is so much higher now. Like, it sucks, yeah, you spent the money, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to play it just because I spent the money. If I'm not having fun, it's not, like, that money's not going to come back and make it worthwhile. Yes, I beat 2 Zelda games last year. So I did Zelda Link's Awakening earlier in the year. That was like March, April. And then May is when Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I did start it. And then I was playing, obviously, like, I got so little, like, transparently I can go back and look and see like how little I did in the summer in the context of sewing projects, crochet projects, games. Like, I just wasn't doing anything else because work was so draining and so overwhelming that I didn't have the energy to carry into much else when I wasn't working. And that was very obvious. So I had like this big gap, and then it was like, I'm back to playing Zelda in the fall. And then I was making the quilts, obviously, as well on stream. But yeah. So I'd say that's the other 2 things, is like being willing to walk away from something that's not working. Whether that's a game you're not enjoying, a project that isn't working out, or that's not fun. Those sorts of things. I've gotten better at that. And then, yeah, the second thing being, for something that you typically enjoy, if it's not working out, and if you feel like, to use the crochet example, it's frustrating enough that you might be stepping away for a period of time, I try to do something that feels joyful. So that's the last memory you carry of that thing. So as an example, you all know, like, I don't know how, I mean, I'm sure it was obvious that I was stressed and doing too many projects when I was streaming in like November, or like October and November. But we did the boozy backpack. We made it in 2 streams, remember? And like the whole point of that is I looked at the projects that were sitting off to the side, and it was like 90% cut. I just needed to cut the interfacing. And I looked at it and was like, this is not large. It's relatively speaking simple. I've made a back before, if not this one. And it has this really fun boozy theme with the flamingos on the front with their martinis and things and margaritas, and then the women drinking their wine together on the lining fabric, and was like, this will be a fun palette cleanser that's simple, that I can do in a couple, like in an evening if I wanted, or in a couple of streams, and this will give me like that break, that joy that was getting overwhelmed by the stress of trying to finish too many projects, too many quilts. The flamingos were good. So like that was intentional. That was very deliberate, that I looked at what I had and said, here's this thing. It's going to bring me joy to make it. It'll be relatively simple, and it won't take a lot of time to do it. Because that's the other thing, is I think large projects that drag on get heavier to carry in some instances. The quilt that Cypher ended up getting, like, honestly, that quilt, I had spec'd the time perfectly. We kicked that off on like September 13th, I think, and we had finished it by November 11th, which was originally my target. And so if it had been just that, it would have been perfect. It was all the other stuff that I kept layering on that made it worse. But that's like, I don't think everybody can do that, because I know that like some projects get frustrating and some crafts or things that you're working on. But I try really hard when I'm at a point of, this is too frustrating, I don't want to do this, to try and bring in a shorter, simpler project that therefore you'll be able to complete, feel accomplished, hopefully have the joy of doing it without complexity or a long amount of time. And then that's the thing you can carry with you, or that can give you sort of that serotonin boost to feel better about the stuff that you're doing. And I've done that with sewing, as you all saw with the Boozy backpack. I've done that with crochet. For my example, I've done it with running. Like I said, my Boston race was not a bad race. It was better than my first ever marathon. It was actually, I think, only my third marathon, in fairness. So it was better than my first marathon time-wise, and how I felt at the end of it. My second marathon's where I qualified, and then Boston was my third. But, like, it definitely weighed on me where I was like, this is one of those big races. It's one of the world marathon majors. Like, I really wanted to have a good showing, and just things didn't work out. What can I carry in? Because I've already been training for 4 months. I want to have something. I want to do something or do another race that won't weigh on me, or hopefully it'll go better so it won't weigh on me as I go into an off training period that I then just carried on for years. One day. But yeah, so I think maybe we're gonna end it here. It's about 3 hours. And I actually have to go back to work tomorrow. Ugh. Don't even remember what to do. What is my job? How does work happen? We'll find out. So, when switches over, stream is ending. As a quick set of reminders, should be back here as usual on Thursday. What we'll be doing, who knows? I haven't figured that out yet. Probably sewing things in this instance, unless I pick a game. We'll see what my progress is over the next 2 days of sewing. But back as usual Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, that'll be the real question. Do I remember how to log into work? I don't know. We'll find out. Thank you all for hanging out with me and keeping me company for this. I don't do just chatting streams that often, but I feel that this went pretty smoothly, right? Hopefully you all found it relatively enjoyable for me to chat and show off planners and talk about goals. I very explicitly do not have number goals for the stream. That's intentional. But yes, so appreciate everyone keeping me company. Shout out to Tom and Brian for both making streaking jokes. Exciting stuff that you can see nowhere else. I hope that this is enjoyable for you all and you have fun when I'm like, let me show you my fabrics. Let me tell you about all my projects. Wonderful time showing off my hoard of not yet clothing, my hoard of fabrics. Shout out to Shears, who I know has gone off to sleep, for the raid. Antiquated, thank you for the sub. Please enjoy the Susie emotes. I promise that Susie will get all of the extra head pats. Springleaf, if you need a dose of Susie, you can go back to like 5 to 6 minutes into the start of stream and you can have Susie. Back here Thursday night, content TBD, could be sewing, could be games, who knows. But I hope everyone had a good end of 23. We're done with that year. We're into 24 now. And we are going to, let's see who's live. Ooh. Kawaii Guy is live, so we're gonna head over there. They are playing Pokemon Legends Arceus, also a great game. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. They are fully on the Pokemon train. If you are a subscriber, our raid call is Lucky Raid with a Susie emote, or you can use any other hi or hello emote that you have. Again, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I do appreciate you keeping company, not minding me talking endlessly about 23 and my 24 goals and any nonsense related to that and what have you. So as always, everyone, please be safe, be healthy, happy crafting, happy gaming. We're in 2024 now. So on to our new adventure. Have a good one.
Lucky Raid, Springleaf, good to see you. I love a lucky raid this season.